Okay, welcome back. We're going to be solving linear equations with application problems. Okay, so typically we would print this off for you to follow along with us. So if you have a printer, feel free to do so. If not, you will just need to write a bit more today. Okay? So go ahead and pause your video if you need to write down this image. It also has been uploaded so that you can see the image beforehand. Write an equation and solve each problem. Please identify your variables. Number 1, the length of a rectangle is 3 centimeters greater than its width. The perimeter is 24 centimeters. What are the dimensions of the rectangle? So the first thing you want to think about is your variables, okay? And you want to think about what you're finding, okay? If you're finding the dimensions of a rectangle, well, what are the dimensions? Dimensions are length and width. Okay, but this is a linear application problem, so therefore you're only going to be using one variable, okay, not multiple variables, right? Although you do see 2 lines, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So what are we going to go off of? We have the length of a rectangle is 3 centimeters greater than its width, okay? So that means the width is going to be the base of our dimensions. So W I'm going to have is the width of rectangle. Okay, so if W is the width of a rectangle, then how would we identify the length? Well, the length is 3 centimeters greater than the width, so therefore the width plus 3 is going to be the length of rectangle. Okay. And when we're setting up our variables, you want to make sure that they're specific, okay? Please do not abbreviate anything. Use your space to write it out in detail. Okay, step 2, write or set up your equation that you will be solving. Okay, we gotta set it up. Okay, down here is where we solve. So we're just setting it up here. So we need to talk about perimeter. Okay, what is perimeter? Well, perimeter of any basic shape depends on what is it. But for most shapes, okay, that have a shape of a rectangle or quadrilateral, we have the perimeter of 2 width plus 2 length, okay? Okay, that's a cursive L, by the way. So 2 times the width plus 2 times the length, okay? So let's, using that equation, fill in what we know. So the perimeter is 24 centimeters. Okay, you do not use labels within your equation. And 2 times the width, well, we don't know what the width is, so 2W will stay, plus 2 times the length, well, the length is W plus 3, so we end up with 2 times the quantity of W plus 3. Okay, and that's all you do for step 2. Step 3 is where you're going to solve it, okay? This is where you show your work. So we bring down that equation that we just created, and we use algebraic skills to simplify and solve for the variable. So we need to distribute. Which looks like 2W plus 6. And combine like terms to get 4W plus 6. Okay, and then we subtract 6 to the other side to get 18 equals 4W. And then I'm going to divide by 4. Okay, now we talked last week about how we always want to have improper fractions, but we also want to make sure that it makes sense for the problem, okay? So in this sense, for application problems, decimals are more acceptable, okay? So 18/4 simplifies thus that W is 4.5. So we solved for our variable. Step 4, You're going to state your final answer or answers, and every time you're doing an application problem, you need to make sure you do not forget your units on the final answer. And when you have more than one answer, you need to make sure you label your answers to match what you're being asked to find, okay? So don't just put two numbers, you need to label them with what the variable means or what the answer means, as well as labeling it with a unit to represent it for an application problem. So we know that the width is 4.5 centimeters. Okay, well, how are we going to find the length? Okay, well, we know that the length is the width plus 3. So 4.5 plus 3 equals 7.5. So therefore, the length is 7.5 centimeters. And you're done with number 1, okay? And so all this information is for number 1. So you can see how these problems would become multiple points once it comes into a test or assessment. Okay, let's work on number 2. Number 2, find 4 consecutive odd integers with a sum of 184. So first thing we need to do is identify our variables. So again, it has to be the same variable, but just manipulated slightly, okay? We don't want to say X, Y, Z, W, or A, B, C, D, okay? Because that's not going to help us. Everything needs to build off of the other variable for us to be able to solve. So in this scenario, I'm going to say that X is my first consecutive odd integer. How would I get my next odd integer if X represents the first one, whatever it could be, okay? So let's say, for example, that the first number is 3, okay? How would I find the next number, the next odd number from 3? Well, it wouldn't be 4, right? So 3 plus 1 is 4, but that's not odd. We want the consecutive odd integer, not just consecutive integer. So to get to the next odd integer, we would have to take plus 2, okay? Which some students are like, but it's not even, okay? But that doesn't matter. Odd and even numbers always are 2 numbers apart. So X plus 2 would represent my second consecutive odd integer. And I need 4 consecutive odd integers. So the next one after that would be 2 more. So that'd be X plus 4. My third consecutive odd integer. Nope. G's going crazy here. And last but not least, X plus 6 for that 4th consecutive odd integer. Nope, I misspelled consecutive. Okay, so now we have all our variables identified. So now we need to set up our equation. Okay? Well, if they're consecutive integers, we already had that set up. Then we have a sum of 184. So that means all 4 of these numbers add up to be 184. So we have X plus, and you want to separate it, so use parentheses, X plus 2 plus X plus 4 plus X plus 6, all equals 184. And again, step B is only just setting up your equation. Step C is where you solve it. Okay, so all you do is rewrite your equation. And you don't have to use the parentheses in your work, but you do need to show all your work. The first thing I'm going to do is combine like terms. Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that for a sec. Did you do it? Hopefully. So combining like terms, you get 4x plus 12 equals 184. Then we subtract our 12. 4x equals 172. Divide by 4. And x equals 43. Okay. So 43 is my first number. So my first consecutive odd integer is 43. Okay, well again, how am I going to find my next one? Well, the next number is 2 away. So therefore my second consecutive odd integer is 45, and so forth. And so I'm going to follow my pattern that we set up in part A to identify the rest of my consecutive odd integers. And we end up with this answer. Okay, so yes, there is a lot of writing to talk about with your identifying variables, but you want to stay consistent and clear. Okay. So that is how we do number 2. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this video so that you can go ahead and try the next one, and we will come back.